vertical. I'm doing a little test to see if it's gonna help or not help with viewership, because I know we usually stream in landscape mode, and landscape mode doesn't get recommended to mobile users, YouTube users. So today we're gonna stream vertical and see what happens. I have a few questions I wanted to answer to start, and then after these questions are taken care of, I'll be taking questions in the chat. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. But I do have a few. What's up, Andy? We do have a few here to cover. So first question I'm going to cover, a lot of people may encounter this for sure if you're starting working out, if you haven't started, or if you started with me. Roman actually asked me this question as he started working out is, when you start working out, why do you get irritated easier? Or like, why do you feel like you're on edge easier? Right, so people who introduce any kind of significant life change into their lives, working out especially, it's a huge life change. If you haven't worked out consistently for a while and then all of a sudden you start, two things happen. First of all, you're a lot more fatigued in general because you're spending a lot more energy per day. And second of all, you need more nutrients and more resources for recovery. So fatigue is one, that's just expended energy. Hey, what's up, Cher? And two is recovery, right? Two things need to happen. So for the fatigue, that's just a normal thing. If you're eating enough and you have enough resources for your body to recover, you'll be fine. After a week or two, your body is going to get used to the new routine. But the second part is the hard part, is the recovery part. So what do you need for recovery? You need to start consuming more protein, right? And you need to start getting the proper amount of sleep every night. If you don't get proper amount of sleep every night, you are going to get irritated. And you might associate and say, well, you know what? Working out makes me more irritated. Working out makes me more angry. In general, that is not the case. Lack of sleep and lack of nutrition for recovery will make you feel more irritated in general and will make you feel more on edge and like you're easily disturbed when you start working out if those things aren't accounted for. So when I started working out, when I got back into this routine, first few weeks, I had to sleep more. I had to add like 30 minutes to an hour extra to my sleep. Also, if you're working out and you're stressing out your body, hey, Waylon, welcome to the stream. Also, if you're working out and stressing out your body, you coming in? Oh. If you're working out, stressing out your body, in general, you just need to give yourself a break, right, to recover. If you're not doing that, you are going to feel more on edge. I just repeated myself, I think, right there. As far as nutrition goes, this is going to go into my second question. Last time we talked about, introduce small changes into your routine, into your diet. Don't do anything drastic because you'll get basically burnout, where you're introducing a lot of new things into your routine, from a new workout schedule to certain exercises you're doing to certain foods you need to be eating now, to like when you're introducing too much, you're going to have burnout. So I didn't answer any specific questions regarding nutrition. So this time I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on that, to talk about that. So ideally, in an ideal world where we have 100%, just leave it, it's fine. Where you have 100% control over your life and you can plan out every minute of every day and just be like a measured robot, then it's very easy to adjust things. Because in that world, you wake up same time, there's no unexpected things that happen to you in everyday life, there's no unexpected dietary changes, there's no unexpected unplanned things that happen to you, a flat tire, whatever. In an ideal world, we can make all these kinds of statements and assumptions about how we need to plan our diet, plan our day, plan our workouts, plan this and that. But stuff happens, right? And so that's why, as a general rule, we need to introduce, we live off principles. Like, yeah, in ideal world, we need to wake up at this time, we need to go work out at the same time, I need to go stream at the same time, I need to have this type of food with this many calories. But stuff happens. We're human beings. We sometimes don't prepare food for ourselves. Or the line at the restaurant we showed up to is way too long, and we know that we're not going to be able to get a regular meal that we already know the calories and the protein for. So we have to look for alternative way. Or work is just way too busy in the moment, especially for blue-collar workers, that you can't leave right that moment because you have to get stuff finished up. Or those of you who work in corporate, maybe this happens wherever you work, it just gets busy out of nowhere, and now you can't leave to go to lunch or whatever, and now you have to skip lunch. I mean, some states it's mandated, and so what I'm saying now regarding lunch, you're like, oh, I have no idea what you're talking about because I have to leave and get my lunch no matter what at the same time every day. Ignore that. I'm just as a matter of principle. Stuff happens. So that's why we go off principles. The principle is you need to be consuming a minimum when you start working out, even if you're not working out. As a general rule of thumb, you need to be consuming a minimum of 0.5 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That should be your minimum thing you strive for, or 1 gram per kilo. So that's kind of what you should be aiming for. Now there are rules to the exception. We have my friend Dylan. He eats or drinks, I should say, because he mostly drinks his juices. He's a raw food diet type person, vegan, and so he is consuming on average like between 5 and 20 grams of protein max per day. And he's been doing that for the last 2 years. No more than 20 grams of protein per day for 2 years. Now, I don't know how that plays into his recovery. It definitely doesn't help with muscle building. He has gotten stronger, but you can get stronger with just basically, what do you call it? Neuromuscular connections, teaching your body to be able to engage more of your muscle fibers per movement. So technically, without gaining weight or putting on muscle mass, you can get stronger with the muscle you already have. That is an actual thing. We talked about earlier about the Bulgarian powerlifters and how they train. Как найти то видео на русском, Тимур? Крепость фитнес канал называется. Мой русский. Если хочешь написать, можешь найти. Если хочешь написать на YouTube, то найдешь. Там русские видео, но я там давно не ставил. So yeah, if you are actually trying to build muscle though, those are your minimums that you should be aiming for as a matter of principle. Now, in order to accommodate for life changes and like not having to eat the same exact food every single day of the week for months, what you can do is you can pre-calculate meals. This is how I went about it. I went to In-N-Out, and usually at In-N-Out, I have a double meat hamburger with fries when I go. So I looked up on the In-N-Out website how many calories I'm consuming when I eat that, and how many grams of protein I'm consuming when I eat that. I wrote that down. Then I checked the Chipotle. I wrote that down. And so now I have several options. No matter where I go, thanks to franchises all over the United States, I can have a standard, like last minute, if I don't have food to eat, if I don't have anywhere to go, I know I can go to H-E-B and buy chicken tenders, and those, literally the calories and the protein is printed on the box. Or I could go to Chipotle, or I could go to In-N-Out, or I could go to Chick-fil-A or whatever restaurant, pick a meal, and I already know how many calories I'm consuming in that meal and how many grams of protein I'm consuming in that meal. Again, I'm a little bit less, but I'm approximately 180 pounds. So my aim should be to consume 90 grams of protein per day, minimum, right? It's always best to do more if you can, if you want to. But minimum 90 grams should be what I'm aiming for. That being said, having these meals broken down gives you options, and also it makes it easy for you to decide where to go, what to eat, depending on how many grams of protein you need to consume that day. Also, you can have emergency meals like yogurts. Like yogurts, they sell small yogurts with 20 grams of protein per little can. Boom, you can just have one. You can also buy juices. There's protein shake juices like protein milk, but there's like lots of brands now, not just protein. Protein milk was one of the originals, where you know that by drinking that one shake, you get 20 grams of protein. Boom, easy, knocked it out, broke it up into several meals a day, you got your protein in. As far as calories are concerned, so to me personally, this doesn't really apply. Do you diet? Hey Kane, I don't specifically diet, so right now I'm actually talking about this. I'm not dieting. I just have principles that I try to aim for to hit a certain number of protein intake per day. I haven't been counting lately for the last few weeks, but when I just started working out, like I was more or less strict on it. I replaced a lot of the foods that I was eating, a lot of the drinks I was drinking. I bought protein shakes. I brought Excuse me, I got something stuck. I think I got a hair in my mouth.
Really?
Sorry, guys. That's nasty. As we were saying, as I was, having like prepared meal or the meals you already have, right? You can take what you're already eating every day, right? Whether it's rice and chicken and beans, or whether it's potatoes with a drumstick, a chicken drumstick, or whether it's steak with quinoa on the side. I don't know what it is you eat. Weigh it. All it takes is once. Weigh it once. Memorize what it looks like. Okay, this much weight for this much meat is this many grams of protein. Use the internet. Either ask ChatGPT or literally look up a calculator. How many grams of protein for boneless meat of this kind? And it'll tell you this many grams translates into this much protein specifically. And so you only have to do this once. You write it down once, and now you have a general rule of thumb of how to go about basically designing your meals throughout the day or picking what you're going to eat that day, because now you have options and you don't even need to change anything. You don't need to go on a diet. You don't need to like make significant changes in your life unless you're already eating like very unhealthy. Then you can start introducing small changes. But first, where you want to start off is just take everything you're eating now, translate it into numbers as far as calories and protein is concerned. Look up every food, write it down in a little notebook saying, okay, this is my mashed potatoes and chicken drumstick meal. This is how much I consume when I eat this meal. Okay, this is my top ramen noodles with 2 eggs meal. This is how much I'm eating as far as protein and calories are concerned out of this can of top ramen and 2 eggs meal. Whatever it is you eat. Yogurt, right? This is how many yogurts I'm having per day, or what kind of bowl of yogurt I have per day. There's 300 grams of yogurt inside of this thing that I eat. This is how many calories. This is how much protein it is. You got those things figured out of the things you already eat. Then you can be like, okay, today, by the meals I'm already eating, by my usual routine, I'm consuming 60 grams of protein. I need to up that a little bit. So I'm going to cut down on the top ramen and add an extra egg. Boom, small change, small transition. All of a sudden now you're hitting your correct, protein intake. And then instead of eating 250 grams of yogurt, you're going to up it to 300 grams of yogurt because you needed a few extra grams of protein per day. Like, take what you already do, introduce small changes, use that as a principle, use the meals you already eat, the places you already go out, write that down in a notebook, use that as your reference sheet, make sure you're eating enough. That's going to resolve your recovery. You're going to recover quicker. And then as far as sleep goes, do your best to get enough sleep. That'll take out your feeling of fatigue, which is what causes irritation when you start working out, right? So a common side effect of like starting intense workouts is irritation. And the reason why, not enough rest, not enough nutrition. Your body is stressed. The stress is producing cortisol, all this other hormones in your body, in your blood, and all of a sudden you're like constantly stressed and on edge because your body isn't recovered and you're stressing it even more with mental overload, with mental work and all this other stuff. That answers those 2 questions, right? Why people get irritated and what causes it when you start working out, and how to plan your diet in a little bit more detail than we talked about last time, because last time I almost spoke in vague, like general principle terms of like, oh, introduce small changes. Right now I was able to break it down a little bit more, how you can break it down into calories and into protein intake. Right now I simply covered protein intake because personally I'm not specifically concerned with gaining weight or losing weight, because to me that's not really a measurement I'm going off of at all. I just want to make sure that I'm eating enough to recover well and that my strength and PRs are going up, right? That's my number one and only concern right now. As far as gaining weight and losing weight, I'm not too concerned, so I'm not keeping track of that number. But what you would do is use the same exact approach. Count up how many calories you're eating every day. Do that for a week. Take the total, divided by 7. That'll tell you your average that you're consuming every day for the week, because they're going to fluctuate. One day you're going to eat 500 calories more. Another day you're going to eat 500 calories less. So you have to take a whole week, count it up every day for a week, Take the whole week, divide it by that amount, divide it by 7, that'll give you your average. And then cut one thing out. If you're trying to lose weight, cut one thing out while keeping protein the same. Cut your portion of top ramen. I don't know. Cut your portion of the amount of potatoes you're eating, or the amount of bread you're eating, or the amount of rice you're eating. The carbohydrate part, take that out, keep your protein the same. And if by average you cut out 300 calories per day, you're going to start to see your weight dropping. The opposite is also true. If you're trying to gain weight, take your average of what you're already eating. Don't introduce any changes yet. Now you know, based on your calculation, that you're eating every day, I don't know, 3,000 calories a day. You're trying to gain more weight. Make it 3,300. Introduce an extra egg into your diet. Introduce an extra ounce of steak into your diet. An extra chicken wing into your diet. You know, just one extra thing. Stick to it. And next thing you know, a few weeks later, you're starting to gain weight. So same exact principle applies to calories as it does to protein. It's just something you need to start and then go from there to see changes. Just stick to it consistently. I'm gonna go through your Q&As right now and start answering those. Timur is asking in Russian. Лет 10-12 назад с одноклассником тебя смотрели и учили выходы силой. И почему-то вспомнил тебя и случайно попал на стрим. Хотел сказать спасибо, многому научился от тебя. Пожалуйста, Тимур, я рад, что ты научился и что я мог тебе дать мотивацию на тренировке. Рад был помочь. Daniel says the beauty of doing the carnivore diet, you don't need to count anything. Building muscle is really easy as long as you eat enough fat. Carnivore diet is very high in protein and fat and low in carbohydrates. So yeah, as long as you're eating until you're full, you're pretty much always going to hit your protein intake without having to count anything, because it is inherently a very high protein diet because you're mostly consuming protein type products. So yeah, definitely with carnivore diet, you wouldn't need to worry about it almost at all. But what you would have to worry about though is eating enough, because protein has a tendency. So when you eat high protein, has a tendency to make yourself feel full while you're still not eating enough calories. So you eat a little bit of protein. It's a denser type of food than carbs. You eat protein, steak, chicken, whatever it is. After you have some, you feel full, but you still haven't eaten enough. And so what starts happening over time, unless you force feed yourself or have more meals throughout the day, is you get into a calorie deficit and you're constantly slightly hungry. Not hungry, like you feel full, but you're hungry. Like you don't really want to eat more, but also like you have this itch, you know, kind of irritation. I've personally experienced this when I went on a carnivore diet for like a week, right? A long time ago, like 8 years ago. Like I felt like I didn't want to eat more, but I felt hungry. Like it's this weird thing because like everyone's so addicted to carbohydrates. I know over time you get used to it and it just becomes normal. But you start just like literally craving carbs because you've lowered your total calorie intake and your body is like recalibrating itself to now work with a completely different intake of foods and what your macros are. Question about marriage. Let me go through the other questions first. There's an app where you take a photo of the food and it'll tell you cal, protein, carb, fats. There is, but it's very inaccurate. It's an AI app. I think it's called Calorie AI, something like that. Calorie something AI. But it's an AI app where you take a picture of your meal and it tells you how much protein it has, how many carbs it has, and all this other stuff. Personally, honestly, it's pretty inaccurate. Like a lot of fitness influencers are promoting it, but it's pretty inaccurate. You need to know the actual weight and the ingredients of the food. It's not that hard. Like literally, get a food scale, right, for $20, for $25 on Amazon. Weigh your meat. Know how to use the scale, how to calibrate it so that it, like, you can put a plate on it, click a button so it goes to 0, it subtracts the plate. put whatever rice you want in. Okay, I'm gonna eat 300 grams of rice. Take that out. Put your meat in. Then you'll know how much meat you're eating, etc. And then look up just the basic conversion. Um, how many grams of protein are in 200 grams of raw chicken? And that'll tell you. And you'll know exactly what the conversion rate is. And going forward, you'll just know that. You'll just have it on a little piece of paper in your notes or maybe in your phone notes, and you can reference that anytime you want. So it's not very hard, and it is very easy and to measure calories and protein accurately. So you can use an app, but just know ahead of time it's not going to be very accurate. When resting, you want to aim for REM sleep, rapid eye movements. Cher says, and Andy says, would you trade your current job for a personal trainer job if you had the option? I've been considering it, Andy. I've been considering going like full-time online training or maybe in-person training. I have thought about it, but I still have a project running, a couple of projects running that I want to finish up. So I'm definitely focused on getting those done because that's what pays the bills right now. But I've considered it, but not enough to be like, okay, I'm done with this 100%. I'm going this direction now. Dmitry, привет. Cher says being on a calorie deficit is a constant mental battle for not eating more or sweets. Yeah, it is, Cher. For a while it is. Until your basically stomach shrinks and gets recalibrated to how you're eating now, and then you should be fine. But also, like, if you're in a calorie deficit, don't go too much into a calorie deficit. It's better to make a lifestyle change, right? Because if people go on diets and they go on these drastic diets for several months, and they're basically starving themselves and they get really skinny, and then they basically binge eat all of a sudden, excuse me, because their diet was unsustainable, and then they start gaining weight again. It's like introduce small changes. So take out an extra 200 grams that you're eating per day permanently. Just take it out. And you can have, I've actually read this before and it's actually very effective. Having one cheat day per week is not enough to cause like lasting changes into your routine. And I've actually read studies on this. So if you're very strict with your diet 6 days a week, and then you have one cheat day where you eat cake or you like pig out, eat whatever, all the calories you consume that day is not enough to offset the rest of the averages that you have per week. So you can even do that to be able to maintain a strict diet and stick to it and still be able to maintain a certain number of weight. Igno says, I'm so depressed, suicidal again, but I won't, I'm good. You really need somebody to talk to. There's a few people actually who offered to talk and help and like provide company for people struggling with mental health in my Discord. So if you want to join there, I don't know if you have Discord, and talk to some people. There's like we have a pretty good community here on YouTube of everybody watching, and I'm sure there's gonna be several people at least willing to talk to you and maybe help you out. But you also wrote me some emails, and there are stressors in your life, right? I'm no therapist. Don't take any of this as like some professional therapist advice because I'm not none of those things. But there are definitely things in your life that are causing you lots of stress, right? And you told me about some of them. The best way to not feel hopeless is to start introducing small changes to get rid of those stressors in your life. Because the longer you maintain them and pretend everything's okay, the more they're gonna push you down and the more hopeless you'll feel. And depression is just one of the symptoms of the depression, or maybe even causes of depression, is a feeling of hopelessness. And if there's no upwards movement in your life where you're getting rid of these stressors that are making your life miserable, hopelessness is going to set in. Once hopelessness sets in, you fall back to your addictions or coping mechanisms that you have in place. And the more you do that, it basically becomes a very self-defeating cycle where you go lower and lower and lower. You spiral down because you're miserable, so you do things that make you more miserable, like short-term dopamine or whatever release that you feel good in the moment, but the next day you hate yourself for doing them, and then that makes you feel more hopeless. It makes you feel more hopeless. You indulge again. You binge again into things that are unhealthy just to get a really quick dopamine hit. Then the next day you feel shitty again, and like it's a spiral that's gonna get worse and worse unless you really do something about getting rid of the stressors in your life that are causing this to begin with. Thoughts on drinking 500 milliliters of milk a day for gains? I'm not lactose intolerant, but not sure if too much milk in general is bad for you. I don't see anything wrong with doing that fast and finance. Whey protein is actually basically dried milk. It's a dairy product, whey protein, and most bodybuilders use whey protein as a protein source. So you drinking milk is essentially already diluted whey protein, or it's basically the same thing, right? Protein powders are based on dairy. So absolutely no problem at all drinking milk every day, doing that, especially if it's a good hey Tara. I mean, it's a Q&A today. I'm answering questions. I'm really sore from last couple days, so I didn't want to make it worse, so I just decided to do a Q&A day today. I do boxing training, which is more cardio, but can I still build muscle with calisthenics? You can. One thing we learned when I was in the university and took exercise biology classes, exercise science classes, one thing we learned is there's also studies on this. There's a hormone in your body. It's one of the hormones that triggers hypertrophy and muscle growth. It's called mTORC1, mTORC1, right? So mTORC1 hormone gets blocked during high endurance cardiovascular exercises and actually prevents muscle growth. Now, let's talk about timing, right? So if you just did a workout that broke down your muscle fibers, that now you require recovery and require hypertrophy to build everything back, if you then go after your muscle building workout and then you do cardio for hours on end, or even for an hour, just like high intensity cardio after your workout, where all you're doing is keeping a high heart rate in order to stimulate your cardiovascular system, but it's not a muscle building type workout, it's going to block that. And what you will do is you will recover back to where you were, or it may even result in like lowered muscle mass because your body will optimize for having high cardiovascular performance. And having a lot of muscle mass on you is bad for your cardiovascular system. So what your body is going to do is it's going to be like, I don't need all this muscle. It takes way too much energy to maintain all this muscle. I can do the same exact cardiovascular workout with less muscle. So why don't we get rid of it instead of putting on more muscle and optimize for cardiovascular endurance? And so if you're trying to build muscle while doing high cardiovascular workouts, you want to do those either on a separate day, right? You do your cardio on a separate day, then you do your muscle building workouts. Or you do your cardio in the morning. Once your body's fully calmed down, you go do your muscle building workout, and for the rest of the day, you don't do any cardio. So you want to make sure you structure this properly. You do your cardio, a few hours later you go work out for muscle building, like muscle stressing, fatigue workouts. Then you don't do anything until the next day. Don't do any cardio until the next day, or just do them on separate days. That's the way you want to go about it. Hey, Wild, how's it going? Welcome. Costco has their own whey protein and super cheap, but I'm concerned about the quality. Do you know anything about this? I don't know anything about Costco protein, Andy, but I do know that like most Costco stuff that I've tried was good. So I'm sure if you research about it online, you can read some more. But Costco is able to cut margins when they produce their own stuff because they don't have to pay a third party. So that's why they're able to produce stuff much cheaper, because it's basically all done in-house. Kirkland brand, it's all done in-house. There's not a third party that they have to share their profit margin with. So that's why they can afford to make things cheaper and still have them decent and good. A lot of it is probably even like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the stuff they sell is produced in the same factories or similar locations in cities where the other manufacturers are producing their stuff. Like, it's probably very high likelihood it's made in the same town, maybe even in the same factory, just with a different sticker label placed on it. All right, Straight and Narrow asked me, advice for someone thinking about marriage. I'm a male. I know you were married before. So I did talk about making a video before about marriage and divorce and what happened with me exactly and why we ended up divorcing, how we got together, all this stuff. I think that video still deserves to be made. Yeah, that does make sense. Okay. I was like, deserves. I can't say that about a non-human. But yeah, I can. That video still deserves to be made, and I haven't made it yet. A few things that I would say definitely consider, um, Straight and Narrow is one of the biggest mistakes I made when I got married is I thought, I was under the impression that if we both love Jesus and we're both Christian, everything else can be figured out. Very soon, I realized that is definitely not the case. Um, Personalities matter, values outside of your religious belief and inclination matter. You want to be with somebody you respect and admire, right? And not just respect and admire, but somebody you really know well. So we didn't really know each other. We knew each other for like 2 months before I proposed, and based on the false belief that like if we share the same religion, we can figure everything else out. We got married. So I would say spend at least a year and a half around that person. Do things with that person where you can see them. There's this is probably like a lot of people say this as a joke, but it's probably true. Is like go on a road trip with somebody, because road trip, like a very long road trip, because road trips could be really irritating and they get you're gonna see that person bored and how they behave when they're bored. You're gonna see them uncomfortable and how they behave when they're uncomfortable. You're gonna see them irritated and how they behave when they're irritated, especially if it's a really long road trip and you guys basically are traveling in a car and having to do all that. And you really get to know a person because you really see them in difficult, stressful situations. You see how they behave, you see who they are as a person, and you're spending every day with them. And that'll tell you kind of like, do you guys really get along? And I mean, the old adage is like still true. It's cliche, but it's true. It's like you want to be best friend with the person you marry. So if it's someone that you find, oh, she's pretty, I think we'll make a great couple. She's really sweet. It's like, yeah, those things are good, but they're not gonna last. Like, you really want to be best friends with the person, share the same values, be able to talk about anything, and like riff off each other in the sense of like, hey, I tell her this, and she enjoys listening about like to it and about it, and then vice versa. When she tells me stuff, I'm interested in what she's saying, and I value her feedback and all this stuff. But like, you actually enjoy each other's company. You're not tolerating each other, you're looking forward to talking to each other, right? And in the beginning, when you fall in love, everything feels that way. But that's why I said, like, go on a road trip with this person, and it'll really help you see them, like maybe a long road trip, like a 2 week road trip. Because at the end of the day, if you're gonna spend the rest of your life with them, you really better know who you're gonna spend the rest of your life with. Are there more people taking steroids now than ever before? What are your thoughts on this? I think so, Andy. I think more people are taking steroids now than ever before because they're, first of all, they're more available now than ever before. Also, a lot of the bodybuilders and a lot of the people who are in fitness have become very open about taking steroids, and they literally put their whole steroid stacks online. Like, this is what I'm taking, this is how much I'm taking, these are the results, this is the doctor says, this is what they say. Like, everything is so open and accessible that even though it's illegal, I think steroids are still illegal unless like specifically prescribed by a doctor for some kind of condition that you have. Steroids are literally an illegal drug in the United States. And even though they are, all the information is so readily available that people are able to take it. Like back in the day, even Arnold Schwarzenegger's time, nobody really talked about their stack. I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger even talked about what he took and how much he took. Freaking Ronnie Coleman, right? Ronnie Coleman didn't even. He was what several times Mr. Olympia. He never talked about what he took. Every time he's asked like what he took, he's like, oh, I just took the regular stuff, the stuff everybody else was taking. Like he never even talks about it. Now everybody talks about it. It's easily accessible, and people wanna. Everyone loves taking shortcuts, and so obviously, like, hey, I get to get fit 10 times faster than everybody else without putting as much effort. Hell yeah, give it to me. And I'm gonna use this guy. That guy has a great body. I know his full stack. I'm gonna use his routine, and I'm gonna get to that level, and I'm gonna use his dosages, and they just do that. So yeah, obviously it's a lot more widespread, and a lot more people are doing it just because it's just so much more readily available today. Hey, Muscle Man, today's a Q&A session because I was a bit too sore to work out on stream today. Do you have any tips for mental health? Sometimes with my lifestyle, I get a bit isolated because I spend so much time on my own hobbies, fitness all day. It's a very good question, Grain. Do you have any tips for mental health? Sometimes with my lifestyle, I get a bit isolated because I spend so much time on my own hobbies, fitness all day. Somebody actually asked me this question on my Christian channel. They said, can you talk about how much your life has changed and how making friends has been ever since you left church? So church acts as a very strong bonding societal glue. So everyone in church, they automatically assume, like, because they have the same belief that they're brothers and sisters, and like they all have something in common, something big, that they have this, they're built on the same foundation. And so when you walk into a church and everybody knows you and you're a member of that church, everybody there's an assumed friendship, right? There's some kind of assumed glue, assumed bond that's already there, that's present. And so when you go talk to somebody, or you hang out with somebody, or you go to some kind of small group or Bible study or some kind of community event or some kind of block party, right, that you're having with your church friends, everyone like cares about you, or I don't know how deeply they do, but at least they ask, like, hey, how are you doing? How have you been? Why don't we pray together? Why don't we do some things together? Like, why don't we meet up, or like come to our Bible studies? And even if you are very isolated in your own hobbies and your own thing that you do all the time, you know that 4 times a week there's something going on in church. And at any point that you feel lonely, you just show up, and everyone will show you care and show you attention, and show that they care, right? A type of hospitality. When I left the church, I realized like that is a huge chunk of my life that was missing, because there's no such thing like that outside the church that I know of. Like, you can go to a community party, but everywhere else you go, everyone's kind of skeptical of each other. It's like, who is this guy? Is he creepy? Is he not creepy? Is he dangerous? Is he not dangerous? Like, what's he gonna like? There's not this assumed trust, right? Like within the church, it's kind of like there's this assumed trust, and then everybody kind of like waits for you to give them a reason not to trust you as a Christian, as a brother or sister in Christ. So in the world, it's like the opposite. It's like nobody trusts you until you give them a reason to trust you. So it does get very difficult. That's probably like one of the biggest things I've noticed when I left the church is like, shoot, like making friends is way harder. So what I would say is join. You said since you spend so much time on your own hobbies and fitness all day, you get a bit isolated. Join groups where you can be with other people who are into the same hobbies as you. Even if your hobby is just an isolated hobby that you just do by yourself, join groups that you can go to where other people practice that, and like make it a rule of thumb to go there at least like once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. Just show up, say hello to everybody, hang out with those people. There's lots of Facebook groups, there's next door groups, there's lots of groups where people practice hobbies together as a group. So whether your hobby is playing golf or working out in the gym, there's events that happen, right? There's like there's the Spartan race where like tons of athletes get together and they go on this race. There's Ninja Warrior courses. Join something that's related to your, like there's CrossFit tournaments. That's something that's related to the hobby you already have, that you're already practicing. Join a group that's practicing that. Try to meet with them at least once a week, once every 2 weeks. That way you feel a connection to the outside world, because when you get too isolated, it gets hard. Like it gets really hard. It gets hard to feel sane, because like we humans, we're very, very communal type of animal, so to say. And yeah, if you get too isolated, it could be really damaging to your mental state for sure. Would you say that you're against the use of steroids given the negative side effects? So Andy, there's a lot of different steroids. There's like, and they all work differently by different means. Like one of the biggest steroids that's been abused is trenbolone. Trenbolone is literally a steroid given to cattle for growing muscle. It forces the body to produce way more muscle than it would naturally carry. And it has a lot of side effects. It gives you heart issues. It causes, in, what is it called? Inter I forgot the word. Anyway, it creates lesions and ruptures inside of your veins that are small, that when you eat cholesterol or any kind of fats, they get stuck and they start clogging your arteries slowly. Like there's so many side effects to it, right? But then it makes you look huge and buff and muscly, because you're literally injecting cattle steroid into your bloodstream. Then there's Anavar. Then there's all these. They're not really steroids, but they're called SARMs, that are basically anabolic stimulants that you can take orally, that are supposed to produce anabolic effect on growing muscle in your body. Then there's straight up testosterone. So instead of your body producing testosterone, you inject yourself with 5,000 units of testosterone, elevate your blood level to like 5,000 to 10,000 units of testosterone, where the normal amount is under 1,000. And now you're walking around with, you know, between 5 and 20 times your normal amount of testosterone in your blood, which stimulates muscle growth. But there's all these side effects to it. So when you're saying, are you against the use of steroids? Well, first of all, there's a lot of different steroids, and they all work by different ways, by different avenues. And second of all, some steroids are used for good things. Like there's steroids that are injected into your joints. When you get a really bad injury, steroids are injected into your joint that's experienced the injury to help recover with the joint recovery. So different steroids are used for different things. And some people who are actually deficient in testosterone production, and they've tried everything natural to restore it, for them, they can supplement with a steroid testosterone that would bring their levels back to normal, so they can function like a normal human being, because otherwise they can feel depressed, lethargic, and literally not even have like the will or energy to get up if their testosterone level is severely reduced beyond the normal standard. So yeah, I mean, there's not only are there lots of steroids, all of them work differently and are used for different purposes. So I'm not against the use of all steroids, that's for sure. And there's a lot of uses for them that are positive, but it's very important to know what you're taking and the side effects and what the long-term effects of it are, and whether you're willing to put up with what's going to come if you do take them. Wild says, I get a hamburger, no sauce, extra veggies, huge burger for only 300 calories. Usually get 2 of those. Yeah, I also default Wild to burgers occasionally, double meat burgers, to get my protein in for a quick meal after a workout. So I've definitely done that. Definitely an easy way to get up on the protein for the day. Ocelot, yeah, I made a video called How I Went from Christian to Agnostic. I think it is the 3rd video. If you go to my YouTube channel and click videos, there's a video called How I Went from Christian to Agnostic. There's a 3rd video down. You can watch it, where I specifically address what happened with my belief system. Would you say you're more an introvert or extrovert? I definitely am an introvert. But I'm a very functional introvert in the sense that, like, if I need to be extroverted, I will. Like, if I need to be outgoing, I will. Um, I'm not introvert where it's like, oh, I'm afraid or I get anxiety in front of crowds. I prefer to spend more time alone. I prefer to be by myself. Like, I prefer those things. But also occasionally I do need to, go out, spend time around others, because then the opposite extreme happens where you're too isolated and it could be bad for your mental health. So I definitely lean on the introvert side, but I'm an outgoing introvert, meaning that if I'm around people, I will talk to them and like try to form connections, try to find similarities that we have between each other in order to build some kind of relationship with the people I'm talking to. Muscle Man says the strongest factor I know of to build and maintain mental health is simply to never be sleep deprived or anything not important. Do not choose fun over sleep. Yeah, I agree with that, Muscle Man. Do you read? Not lately. I haven't read in a while, Andy. I did used to read a lot, especially when I was in college. Like, I read all kinds of books, classics, everything. But lately, I haven't been reading, that's for sure. Not all steroids are for muscle building. I was prescribed a steroid once when I had hives. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to say too. Hey Joe, what's up? If you take testosterone therapy at a normal level, are there side effects? Yes, there are. So when you take testosterone, when you inject outside testosterone into your blood, your body stops producing its own testosterone, because in almost every case, the testosterone so this is like, you have sensors in your body. The sensors are constantly monitoring the level of testosterone in your body. And so if your testosterone is too low, it's signaling your body you need to produce testosterone, and your body starts producing testosterone. For males, the testosterone is produced in your testicles. What happens when you start injecting testosterone and your body checks the level of testosterone in your blood, it basically tells your body, hey, you have enough testosterone, you can stop producing. And so it literally can completely shut down testosterone production in your testes, and you need that production in order to have children, for example, right? I'm just taking one little aspect of what would happen. If you continue taking this and you don't properly cycle the testosterone injection, your body can completely shut down testosterone production that you may never recover again, right? If you don't properly cycle it and you are stuck on injecting testosterone for a while, after a while, your body will just completely stop producing testosterone. And when you stop taking the testosterone injections, it won't start back up again. Literally, it just shuts down and doesn't start again. And so now you're dependent on testosterone for the rest of your life. For this reason, you have to monitor how much you're taking, and there's drugs that you take alongside testosterone injections that will stimulate like natural testosterone production in your testicles, so that they can stay functional. So that when you stop taking testosterone, your testicles will still be functional and work, right? That's just one of the side effects. But definitely, if this is something you're considering doing, which is not something I recommend, but if it's something you're considering doing, do plenty of reading and know all the risks you're signing up for. Because testosterone ages you quicker. It The testosterone production, one of the side effects is hair loss. Another side effect is aging is one of them. Your heart is actually more stressed when you have higher testosterone in your blood. You're more likely to die of a heart attack. Like there's a lot of side effects that can happen. So there's a lot of things to pay attention to if this is something you're gonna try or want to try, and definitely talk to a doctor. Don't don't take my word for it. Every person is unique, and every single person should be treated on a case by case basis with a trained professional. Fortress, you should not become Muslim. You should believe whatever you want to believe. I was not considering becoming Muslim. Ocelot. That's funny. How's the new place? When do we get a tour? I'm moving on August 19th, August 20th. Um, so to Spring, Texas. So I don't know if I'll show you guys a full tour, but yeah, we're gonna start filming videos in Houston very soon here. Which fitness guys did you follow back in the day, and did you watch Rich Piana? I did watch Rich Piana. I didn't follow him, nor did I really care about his advice because it didn't really apply to me because I didn't use any of the drugs he was taking. And bodybuilders, they're on a completely different level because when you have testosterone, like high amounts of testosterone raging through your blood from all the injections you're taking, your routine is going to be completely different, like completely different from natural bodybuilders or not natural fitness people. So definitely none of his advice applied to me, but it was interesting to listen to and learn. I watched Hannibal for King. I watched Hit Richards, although I did disagree with Hit Richards on a lot of things. But he collaborated with Hannibal for King back in the day. There was this guy called Dennis. I forgot his last name. Russian, Ukrainian guy that did stuff like on the pull-up bars that was pretty fun to watch. There's the Bar Stars. There was I followed a few fitness people. Yeah, especially Russian fitness people back in the day. But there's Vitaly Kulikov. Vitaly Kulikov actually held the world record for pull-ups in a certain time frame, and we texted back and forth. Pavel Tsatsulin, yeah, I read his books as well on kettlebells and trainings. That was very interesting. I didn't necessarily follow anyone, but I did listen to all the different people, and I did follow a lot of people as far as like getting knowledge from them, but I wasn't like following anybody's specific routine or anything like that, if that's what you're asking. Hey, sorry, I got a question. Is your sister on a special diet? Does she have a Discord? My sister is not on a special diet, Tashara, and she does not have a. Actually, yeah, she does have a Discord. She does have a Discord. I'll see if she's down. I can share it with you. Share a link on Discord if you want to talk to her. Because yeah, I know you guys are both moms, so she's a mom and she's trying to balance all that. So she might be able to help you with some questions you might have. I know it's definitely not something I can relate to, getting back in shape after giving birth. What equipment would you have in a home gym if you could build one? Definitely pull-up bar, rope, like a rope that you can climb up and down. Climbing rope, I don't know, what do you call it? Pull-up bar, rope, dip bars, and rings, right? Those four things. Rope is not, we can get rid of the rope. Pull-up bar, dip bar, rings. That's really all you need. So parallel bars, pull-up bar, and rings. That's really all you need. The rope is just like for fun, like going up and down on the rope to train your pull-ups that way just for fun. But that's definitely one thing I would have. Andrew Huberman defined extroverts as getting energy from or feeding off being in social situations. He defined introverts as being energized from being alone and can be drained by socializing. So, I heard Jordan Peterson talk about that. The thing is, like, that definition is very limiting because it depends who you're surrounded by, right? So if you're with your best friends or people that really put you at ease, then you will be energized spending time with them. But if you're around strangers, you're going to be drained by it. If you're like a hyper extrovert, you will be energized by spending time with any kind of human being anywhere, right? But even those type of people, they run out of energy and they need to spend time alone. So all of us are hybrids. Nobody is like 100% extrovert or introvert. And I usually prefer spending time alone, but I need to go out and see friends at least a couple times a month lately, because otherwise I just start feeling what Against the Grain said, where you feel isolated. and like really on your own. So like going out, seeing friends, talking, hanging out is definitely like mentally good. Even though majority of the time I prefer spending time alone. So and again, it also depends who you're with. Like some people, being with them makes you feel good and you want to spend more time with them, and others you don't. So like it's a very nuanced thing. Are you gonna make sure your kids are in good shape by the time they start dating? So my dad or parents never put any emphasis on me being in shape. It was just something I did, right? So my kids right now are very fit. My son like just never runs out of energy. Neither does my daughter. They love to run, they love to play soccer, they love to swim. They're very energetic, very like fit and athletic people. So I don't think I will need to make sure of anything. As long as I'm able to maintain and foster and nurture that in them and what they already have, then they will always stay fit. But right now they live with my ex, so definitely she has the most influence on how they live their life and what they do on their day to day. But, as I move closer very soon and I'll be spending more time with them, I will definitely nurture that in them to be able to focus on um, things that they like, more athletic stuff, but ultimately it's up to them. What do you think is your strongest muscle? Probably my lats, Marcus. And the reason I say my lats is because I literally held a pull-up record in my school, and pull-ups mainly being, latissimus dorsi exercise that hasn't been broken in like 10 years. 10 years later, it was finally broken, but for 10 years, it was unbroken. And I was one of the best pull-up guys on YouTube for a while. So definitely, I would say my lats probably my strongest muscle proportionally compared to the rest of them and compared to other people. So Fast and Finance ask, would you say it's better to have your spouse like you 10 out of 10 and you like her 8 out of 10 rather than you like her 10 out of 10 and she likes you 8 out of 10? Okay, I'll read it again. Would you say it's better to have your spouse like you 10 out of 10 and you like her 8 out of 10 rather than the other way around? So you like her 10 out of 10 and she only likes you 8 out of 10. Oh, that question has so many undertones. Cher said everybody 10 out of 10. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Everybody 10 out of 10. But there's a certain, how do I, so there's certain presuppositions when you ask your question, and I wanted to address those presuppositions. I'm just trying to articulate them. Okay, let me break it down this way. So when you like somebody, it's never on a scale, right? It's never a 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10 scale. It's usually broken down into values or habits or character or something, right? So it goes, I like these things about her, I don't like these things about her. Or vice versa. She would say about you, I like these things about you, these things kind of irritate me, but like overall you're such a great person, I can look past those things. So what I would say is you want to be with somebody that you feel 100% that you can be 100% open with, vulnerable with, never feel that you're like someone you can be 100% yourself with, and she can be 100% herself with you, as far as like talking to you about anything, telling you who they are and what they're like and all this stuff. And then the things that are not important, that you guys don't like about each other, and by important I mean not pivotal values in life, like one of you actually is ambitious and wants to be successful, and the other one just like is lazy and doesn't want to do anything, like that's a no, that's a straight cutoff, right? So instead of using a rating system, it's a lot more helpful to break down exactly where your important values lie. If all your important values line up and you guys respect and admire each other based on those values, and you feel 100% like best friends, in the sense of I could be 100% myself around that person, they still accept me and love me for who I am, and they can, and vice versa, that is enough to build on, right? That's a very strong foundation to build on. Our main values agree, our vision for what we want in our life agrees, and not just verbally agree, there's actions that prove that you are headed in that direction, right? Because everybody in the world wants to be fit. Everybody in the world wants to be successful. Everybody in the world wants to be rich. And they will tell it to your face. Hey, I've been overweight for the last 5 years, but I really, really, really want to be fit. Hey, I've been very unsuccessful for the last 10 years, but I really, really, really want to be successful. Everyone will tell you that. It does not matter what they say to you. What matters is what they do and how they live their life. Because everyone's going to tell you these things. So when you look at their life and you see how they treat other people, if you see how they treat themselves, if you see how they treat their time, their actions, where they're putting their energy, if you are okay with the type of person they are, with the assumption that they won't change, and you accept them and like them for who they are, with the assumption that they won't change, and it works vice versa, you can build on that. And all the non-important stuff, like little things you might not like about each other, you can work those out, as long as that main foundation is built there, where you can be 100% vulnerable with each other and not only accept but actually love each other for the values you do share and where you are, not verbally, but watching a person's life and their actions. You can build on that and you could be together. So I wouldn't even use a numerical system to answer that question. I would break it down into a dichotomy of important values and the non-important stuff. As long as it's 10 out of 10 accepting that person on the important stuff both ways, all the non-important stuff that can bring your quote-unquote rating down, that's all solvable with time. Time, communication, and working on stuff together. Isaiah says, hey brother, I watched your video on the Bible and I subscribed. You seem inspirational too with your fitness content. Keep at it. Thank you, Isaiah. I appreciate it. Advice for someone who wants to date as a Christian. Would you recommend just meeting at church, or are there other places? Would you recommend visiting different churches? Advice on waiting for marriage. How old are you, Andy? I'm curious before I answer your question. So one huge mistake I did, also probably because I was raised a little bit too conservative, but one huge mistake I did is I never lived on my own before marriage. Like, I think it is so crucial and essential to live on your own before marriage, because you don't ever realize how much influence your parents have over you until you live a little bit on your own. And once you separate from them and you start living on your own, you start your brain starts separating. Oh, I've been doing these things and thinking these things because my parents had a lot of influence over me and they kept telling me these things. But what do I really believe? Who am I really as a person? Like, I've been doing these things because my entire life they told me to do these things. But who am I really as a person? The fact that I moved from living with my parents to living with my wife at the time we got married, and I moved from my parents' house to living with her, I basically had like a double trouble. There was the trouble of figuring out who I am and what I believe, And then there was trouble of living with this person while I didn't really even know who I was. I felt like I knew it 100%. Like, I felt like I was so sure of myself. Like, I know exactly who I am. I know exactly what I want. I know exactly. You never know until you move out. Once I moved out, I realized, like, shoot, I really didn't know. And now that I'm away from them, I realized a lot of the stuff I've been thinking and doing was because of them. Although while I lived with them, I was sure that who I am as a person was just me as a person. So before moving in with anybody or getting married, I 100% recommend living on your own. And on your own doesn't mean like you have to go rent a very expensive place and spend a lot of money for no reason and pay some kind of landlord a bunch of money instead of saving money with your parents. No, you can move in, rent a room somewhere, travel, like spend time away from them for an extended period of time, maybe for a year, and see how your life changes living on your own. Once you live on your own, it helps establish to you, to yourself, who you are, what you do and don't want to do, how you want to live your life, how you want to structure your day, where you want to focus with your, like all this stuff. Once you have that in place, right, and it can be cheap. You can live at a hostel, especially if you're a male, so it's like less dangerous compared to like girls living around strangers. It's a lot more dangerous and a lot less feasible. But if you're a guy, go live at a hostel, like a shared place for cheap, or rent a room somewhere for like $500 a month. See what it's like for a year to live on your own. That'll help you find yourself, as cliche and as cheesy as that sounds, and then it will help you figure out what kind of person you want in your life, what you want in your life, and all this other stuff. But that would be my number one recommendation before even answering your dating questions. And depending on how old you are, I can answer the rest. Muscle Man says, if a woman liked me literally 10 out of 10 in all areas of life and character traits, I would seriously doubt the quality of her judgment and critical thinking skills. I mean, yeah, none of us are perfect, and all of us have blind sides. Hey, Adventure Eggs guy. Yeah, no worries. I'm glad my videos helped you 10 years ago. You're 24. Yeah, if you can, Andy. I don't know if you still live with your parents, but even if your parents are against it, my parents were, that one of the reasons I never moved out on my own is because my parents were very much against it. But I'm telling you, looking back, if I did that before I got married, it would have helped me restructure. I probably would have never got married to the person I'm married to if I lived just for 1 year away from my parents. And the 8 years that we spent together probably would never have happened, because I would have been able to find myself and establish myself of who I am as a person and what I'm looking for in somebody else. Again, I might be just projecting based on my personal experience, but I'm speaking to it because nobody told me that at the time. I didn't think it was a serious thing at the time. I wouldn't have given myself that advice at the time because I didn't think it was important to live on your own. It's like, why spend money? Why do all this extra stuff? Like, I know who I am. But really, when I moved out, I realized, like, I really didn't know who I am. So that would be one thing. And then, yeah, I think once you know who you are and what you want and what you're looking for and you're happy with yourself, it's going to be much easier for you to attract the right kind of person into your life because you'll know exactly what you're looking for. And when you do find the right person, it will just feel right with that person. But if you make any kind of choice based on desperation or like I need to do this rather than finding somebody and feeling zero pressure and saying, "Hey, I want to do this because of the way this person makes me feel and I feel like this is something I want to, I want to do, I want to build my future with this person because they align with all of my values, vision, where I'm going, and not only do they align with yours, but you align with theirs. When they look at you, they see like a brighter future being with you and all this other stuff. Then yeah. But I definitely didn't have the right motivating factors at the time. And again, living on my own would have solved a lot of those. why my marriage didn't work out. Lots of reasons, but one of them, again, I think I married for the wrong reasons, and the reason why I married for the wrong reasons is I didn't know who I was, because I was still kind of on the journey of figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be and what I'm looking for. And I married because I felt like religiously compelled to do it because it felt like the next right step to do as a Christian. Like, okay, I've finished high school. Most people that I knew in my church were getting married young. Most of my friends were getting married young, and it's like the next step is I need to get married. I found a girl that I liked that I thought we can have a good life together, and it's like that alone is like, I don't know. It's like backwards. You know what I mean? So the person I married, we had very little in common. Very little in common. We didn't see eye to eye on almost anything. So we never became friends within our marriage. Like we didn't talk about much because anything we disagreed on would turn into arguments. We shared different values and different beliefs on most topics. Like anything we talked about, we disagreed on. Like every area of life was just very abrasive and lots of friction. So that's the reason. That's the reason that didn't work out. And after 8 years of suffering for both of us, well, I wasn't suffering all the time, but she said she was suffering, and I said, like, were you happy married to me for a single day? And she said no. And I was like, why are we even together? Like, if there was some days that you were 100% happy being married to me that we can work back to, then it's worth trying. But if you can't look back and say that you've been a single day like thoroughly happy being married to me, what are we doing? And so that's when I was like, all right, we're definitely, time for divorce. All right, guys, thank you all for joining. I'm going to be wrapping it up. We're about 12 minutes overdue. But it was good questions. Nice chatting with you and catching up. I would have liked to work out today, but again, way too sore for that, upper body and lower body. But we've hit a lot of PRs this week. It's been good. Thank you for joining. Fortress with you today. Body, mind, soul, spirit. See you guys tomorrow. Oh, well, tomorrow's Saturday. I'll let you know if I'll see you tomorrow. But I will see you Monday for sure. But tomorrow, 50-50. Have a good night, guys, and a good weekend. And thanks for joining. See y'all later. Bye.